Welcome to the Trust Factor Radio, bringing you interviews and insights to unlock the power of the subconscious mind to create authority, credibility, and trust. With your host, the Authority Architect and best-selling author, Neil Howe.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, Neil Howe, and we are discussing Local Business 2020, a vision for the future. We're going to talk about what you need to do in order to get your business prepared for this new decade that is coming. And today, my special guest is Bill Smith, and Bill is with Boston SEO Services. That's .org, I believe, out of Boston. So, Bill, welcome to the show.
Hi, Neil. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, give us a 30-second rundown of what you have been doing up there in Boston for your clients and your SEO business.
So, I focus mainly on local businesses, helping small to medium-sized businesses get more exposure and get more customers online using their website and other web properties that we'll probably talk about during the interview. I've been doing this, working with local businesses since 2012. So I've been doing it a while. I've been doing online marketing since 2003. So in the online marketing field, I've been involved in it for a little bit of time. And I work with mostly local businesses. It doesn't have to be in Boston, but it has to be a local business. That's why I like working with.
And I love local businesses as well. I think it's the backbone of society. They're the people that are out there, the ones with families that are making things happen in your local neighborhood. So it's really important to get those businesses going and give them as much help as they possibly can. And hopefully with the information that we're going to talk about today, it's going to be beneficial to those local businesses that really want to use the internet in order to get more customers, clients, or patients for their business. Now, what kind of businesses do you work with, Bill? I know you kind of work with a lot of people in the law niche. Is that correct?
Yeah, I work in the law niche, dentists. I work with contractors also, but I focus on attorneys a lot. It's just It's good to have an area where it kind of like an attorney, right? Like an attorney can practice any type of law really, but they usually focus on a certain area. So same thing with what I do. I focus on a few different areas, and that's it. It's just a better way to use my resources and just have a better knowledge about that industry, to help them.
Yeah, that's really important. When you niche down like that, you get very familiar with that industry. So you know the language, you know how to write about the industry, and you know all the ins and outs of what these lawyers especially are looking for. So, from a local point of view, and we're keeping this interview about local, but there's different things when we're looking at Google My Business and the maps, which I think where a lot of the business is coming from these days. There's a couple of things to consider, because if somebody's doing a search for a restaurant near me, that is, they're really looking for that location-based result. Right. But if you're looking for an attorney, say in Boston, you don't necessarily want the one nearest you,
right? Exactly.
It won't necessarily be the best. So how do you optimize that Google My Business listing for an attorney?
So there's also and people do use them. I don't know how many people use them, but there's also search filters on that local listings, the map listing, so you can sort it by relevance. You can sort it by distance. Most of the time it's sorted by distance by default, I believe. Maybe it's a little mix of relevance too. But then there's also highest rated. Like you can select that. So that's some ways is helping attorneys get reviews for their business. Because if someone's looking for the top rated attorney, if you have a lot of reviews, that will help you be found that way. But then generally, like a city like Boston, I would just want to, they don't have, like you said, it doesn't have to be location based. I just want to take over kind of the whole city with that attorney, because especially there's a good comparison is like an attorney compared to a dentist in Boston. I may look for a smaller area for a dentist because people have to visit a dentist, and they don't want to go all the way to the other side of Boston to visit that dentist, most likely, unless it's a special field, like if it's implants or some sort of dental surgery, maybe they'll travel across Boston. But with an attorney, there may be an office visit, but a lot of times things are done over the phone. So I look for an attorney to just take over the whole area of
So how
Boston.
do you do that then? What kind of things would you do for, a local attorney in order to take over and make them the name that is synonymous with their occupation?
Right. So focusing on just the Google My Business right now, making sure that everything is complete and consistent throughout that whole Google My Business with everything that's out there about their business. So, I mean, we talk about it a lot, but it's still really important is the NAP, name, address, and phone number. You want to make sure that is consistent throughout the internet. So that's one of the first steps. The other step is making sure everything is complete, and then trying to just have more information out there than anybody else. So Google really is, they're trying to get these their posts, your business can post different things. So
right.
They're trying to really promote that, and having that, doing things that Google is trying to promote actually helps you too, because you're kind of giving them the content that they need to use that. So posting to your Google My Business helps. Also, having even photos, even for an attorney, like when I say complete it, like even having like my attorney client in Boston, say my personal injury attorney, I actually go in, I'd go in and do like 360 photos for him, because it just sets you apart from that other business. Actually, a good example, this isn't an attorney, but I have a insurance client, and if you look at, so on Google My Business, if you have one, if you log in, there's a tab called Insights, which is really good because you can see what's going on with your business. So one of the things with this insurance company is, compare you to other businesses in the area. So another insurance company in the town or in the city, his photo views are like, I don't know, 20. He has 20 more times photo views than any other insurance company in the area. So even though it's one of those things where, how is he getting these views on his photos? It must be because they're seeing it on his Google My Business.
Right.
Sounds like a simple thing.
I've got some stats, and I talked about this before. I think Search Engine Land put out an article with a correlation between the amount of photos that you have on your Google My Business page compared to the amount of calls that you're actually getting to your business. And, it seems like a lot, but businesses with over 100 photos on their Google My Business page, we're getting an average of 520% more calls than the average, more calls than the average. So that is something that people can do, especially, I'm not sure how many pictures the lawyers will have, but if we're talking specifically service area businesses, or you're going out, you're doing a job, you can take a picture of that.
Absolutely.
And you can put it out on your Google My Business page. But if it has that much of a correlation between the amount of photos and the amount of calls that you get, obviously that's something that they have to look at pretty stringently there.
Yeah, absolutely. And even for an attorney, you can put up team photos, holiday photos. I mean, it doesn't really have to be, if it's a personal injury trade, it doesn't have to be someone in a car accident. It could be just things about your business. Google really do favor businesses that put up more photos.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I've noticed as well with photos. Now, obviously, there's things that you can do with photos. You can optimize photos to, most people think about the title and the alt text, which is fine, but you can go further and you can put the geo coordinates on those photos as well, which really tells Google exactly where your business is, whether you have a stationary business like a law firm or whether you're a service-based business. It shows the actual radius of work that you do and where you actually go. So It's really feeding information to Google all the time and trying, what I say all the time is you really have to prove to Google everything that you say on your Google My Business page is true. And you want to, back that up with proof and, putting that data on photos and delivering it across the internet is definitely one way that you can do that.
Yeah. And it's simple. Like, it sounds complicated, like, oh, put the geolocation data on, but just take a picture with your cell phone, and it puts it on there automatically. So I tell I had a client that does seamless gutters, a contractor, and I just told him every job you go to, just take before and after photos, and it really did make a huge difference for him because it expands your area. Because if he's in one city and he's doing a job in another and it sees that, it just kind of expands his area where he's reaching people, even just from those photos.
Yeah. Well, something that I've noticed with Google My Business recently is, if you are in the city, say Boston, I'm in Atlanta, so I know the suburbs here, but let me do Atlanta because I do know the suburbs. If you're in Atlanta and you have an Atlanta city address, you're not likely to show in Marietta or Roswell or Alpharetta, which are suburbs of Atlanta. You're likely just to show in the city. So, the reach that Google My Business once had is not necessarily there anymore. So, if you want to show up in a different suburb, you're likely going to have a different Google My Business address. Is that something that you have seen or help your clients do, is create new addresses?
Yeah, you can expand the reach even with just the photos. You can expand the amount of area you actually take up with your Google My Business. But yeah, if you can put up another Google My Business and have an address, that's great. Have like a satellite office. It just depends. For myself personally, because I do local lead generation too. I have, having a Google My Business, even without a website, generates a lot of calls. And having those, they work great. It's just that you have to have, it's so if you're showing your address, which you do get a little benefit for showing your address, I believe. But if you're a service business and you're not, you don't really want to show your, it doesn't even, it asks, you Google My Business when you set it up is, do you serve people at your location? And if you don't, then it won't show your address. But it's just how would, if you're taking phone calls and someone says, "Oh, I'll come down to visit you," and you're not at that location, like that kind of might cause a problem for people.
Yeah, I've never
had a call where someone says I'm here and no one's here, but still, it's one of those things. It's just how far you want to take it and how much, how much it's still a risk. Right, to have,
and speaking of risk, recently over the past few months, Google has been suspending thousands and thousands of these Google My Business listings because of things like that. There are a lot of lead generation companies out there that will just go and open an address, get that address, get the Google postcard, and then never use that location again, and Google's really trying to crack down on that. So yes, you have to have an office, you have to have somebody there according to Google's rules,
right?
But what we forget is Google's they're pretty smart.
Yeah,
they know what they're doing. They with the Google Maps, they have, got their car around everywhere. They know exactly where everything is, and they can take a snapshot of your exact location because of the work that they put into their maps.
Yeah.
So, if you say that you are, a law office, and it takes a snapshot of your area, and it's a UPS store or something like that,
right.
then they'll right away they'll shut that listing down. So you've definitely got to be careful.
Yeah, I mean, there are. It's definitely that's true, and I would never use like a mailbox address like that. But there are a lot of startup companies that all work in a shared office space. So I mean, that's one thing, and I see it a lot where they all have the same address. It's probably not a great benefit if those the same businesses all in that same address and they were all the same type of business. It would be tough to rank. That can be a problem. Speaking of it, like attorneys, where they might have a complex where there's a lot of different attorneys that are in this whole office space. Sometimes that can be a problem to rank an attorney. Like if there's 3 personal injury attorneys in that complex and they all have different office numbers in that same address, it can be a little bit of an issue.
Right, and that's called filtering, I believe, where Google really just they'll look at maybe one or the most prominent one of those 3, and they'll think that, well, they're all providing the same service from the same address, so I'm not going to include these other 2, and you won't even show up on the map. So how do you help those businesses, if that's the case, to get back on the map and show up? I think it comes down to branding and being the most relevant choice in order to do that. Exactly.
Branding and building more authority than the other ones. And going back to if you have more reviews and you have more photos, and you're going to be more relevant. So it's a little bit of work. It becomes a little more work than it would normally be if they're there, but it can still be done. You can still, even though if you're not showing up, you can still show up. It's just a little tougher.
So there's one word that keeps coming up, and I've said this in every interview that I've done so far about the local business, and that is branding. I think it's a word that Google really likes. They show the big brands, especially you say you work in some of the construction niches, and I'm sure it's with the law niches as well. But if you do a Google search, say for paving or construction, general contract or something like that, you don't really have much chance as a local business to get on the front page of Google. You've got your ads, now you've got the Google guarantee, and you've got your regular pay-per-click, and then you've got your local 3-pack listing, and there's oftentimes an ad in there as well. But underneath that, your general organic section, I've seen up to 10 out of 10 of those listings being taken by the likes of Home Advisor and Angie's List and Alignable and Better Business Bureau. And it doesn't give the little guy much of a chance to get on that front page. And I believe the reason for that is because Google has built, or these Google likes brands so much, and these companies like we just listed, the Home Advisor and Yellow Pages and all that, they've built up these brands over time, and they're getting rewarded for it from Google. So how does a local company first try and get into one of those spots, and how do they build their brand? What's the best way to do that?
Well, some of them, if they're there, I would, I really don't like Yelp. I don't want to get into a whole tirade about Yelp, but I wouldn't use Yelp as an example. But let's say Alignable, right? So if they have an Alignable account, and Alignable is ranking on the first page of Google, I would definitely pay attention to that. Even though it's not your website, it's still kind of your property, and why not try to push that up? And that's one of the things I do with my clients is branding that way. So citations are kind of a form of branding, right? It does a little bit of everything actually, but then these other relevant places where you can have your web address, except for Yelp. Don't, I mean, if you want to mess with it, go ahead, but I wouldn't. But Alignable and even LinkedIn and so then you have these brands, and make sure everything's tied together, and tell Google. So tell Google, let Google know that, hey, this is all me. This is all my brand. Certain ways to do that is just building these up and having consistent information on those important parts. You don't want, I mean, the content can be different, the description of the business and things like that. But again, if there's a place to put your name, address, phone number, that should be the same. But also tying those together. So if you can tie your LinkedIn back to your Alignable or your Facebook business page, having links to your other web properties besides just your website, that helps Google tie things together. Because Google, that's one of the things the algorithm wants to do, is just tie all these things together. If you do a search for a business, a lot of times now you'll see on the, if you typed in whatever Boston SEO Services and looked at the brand, you might see that info box, and it will say also found on the web, and it will show these other websites because it's trying to tie all these things together. Mm-hmm. Another way to do that, if you do have a website, is using schema markup and telling Google, it's called same as. So you're telling Google, hey, this is my website, and then you list all your properties and go, but all these other things, this LinkedIn profile, this Facebook, this Alignable, these are all the same as me, and that builds your entity. I mean, we call it, it's a brand and an entity, a kind of, not the same thing, but Google looks at it as, oh, this is all one type of unit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that a lot of local businesses don't do, is use that schema markup.
Yeah.
And, like you say, that same as, and what I was saying before is you got to prove to Google what you're saying is true. So if you are a brand at such and such location, then you got to prove it to Google. And, it's the same as my Facebook. It's the same as my blogger,
right.
And I like to use lots of Google properties there as well, including the map and the Google Drive, Google Photos,
yep.
And link them all together, like you said, is definitely something that can move the needle.
Yep.
But, when asked, when surveyed, local businesses were asked, what is the number one way that you get clients to your business? And I know we are in the digital media and online advertising, but 85% of people that were surveyed still say that the number one way that they get business is through referral and word of mouth marketing. And you've been doing something that's pretty special, I think, over the last, getting on for 6 months now. And that is, connecting with people on LinkedIn and giving a shout out. Tell me about that, how it's, helped you become branded and have some name recognition for what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fun. And it wasn't my idea. So what happens is I try to highlight somebody every day on my link. I'm active on LinkedIn a lot, and it could be a local business. It could be anybody. If I just see something interesting, that's kind of how I do it. And so every day, pretty much, I highlight somebody, just mention them, tell them a little bit about their business. I do videos, and people appreciate it. I'm not trying to get business from it, but it is like I never really thought of it as a personal branding type of thing, but it is. It definitely is. And people buy from people. We want to do business with a person. It's way more personal. But yeah, it wasn't my idea. This guy, my friend of mine, Christopher Gray, mentioned me in one of his posts. And I say it every day, but it's true. I thought it was really cool, So I'm like, this is pretty awesome that he's doing this. And it was just nice to, I popped on my LinkedIn and I say, oh, geez, somebody mentioned me. What's going on here? So, and he, the guy that, I don't know if he started it, but it's as far back as I can trace it, is this guy, Michael Propora. and he's in like the New York City area, I believe, but and he's almost done with his. He's like, I'm envious because I started this thing and committed to it, but it's a big commitment, and you
Well,
don't have to.
it's called LinkedIn Connect 365. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I call mine 365 Connect. Yeah, so for 365 days, I mention somebody and highlight them, but I mean you don't have to make that big commitment like 365 days, but it's good to just recognize people. I think that's the main thing. You don't have to make it like I have to recognize someone every day, but people like to be recognized, and I've had some great messages from it. I've had people that have got business from it, not from me, but just because they another one of my connections saw a person that I highlighted and they contacted them, and then other people kind of the same thing, but other people that were looking for that certain person, that whatever they did, and they got connected with them that way. So I like that. I like just being a connector of people too. It's fun. It's and you're giving value.
Yes, definitely. And you did one for me, which I appreciate as well. Like you said, it's nice to get that shout out and to get recognized by somebody else, especially if you're not looking for it and it happens organically, like you've been doing. But what I want to talk about is, what that does for you, because ultimately it's about the know, like, and trust. Well, you're getting yourself known, first of all, by doing it 365 days a year. That consistency is really key to get you front and center. And the same people probably are seeing your videos over and over and over again on LinkedIn every day. So you're getting known. And then obviously you're a person that's put yourself out there as an advocate for others, because you're giving them a shout out and you're telling them what they're doing without the want of any reciprocation or anything like that. So you position yourself as an advocate, and ultimately people trust those people. Right. So whether it's somebody directly saying, well, I see Bill all the time doing this, and I trust he knows what he's talking about, and I'm going to go to him first. Or whether it's one of your referrals, those people that you've given a shout out to, or anybody else in your connections that say, Bill knows his stuff, go see Bill. That's just how referral marketing works. And like I said, it's still the number one way that most businesses get their business.
Yeah. And that's the thing. For direct business from it, and my goal wasn't to get business from it. I just thought it was really cool to do. But like direct business, I haven't got any, but I've definitely received referrals that have turned into business and turned into clients. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it does have value. It has value to it. And the other thing that, like, LinkedIn can be crazy. If you're on LinkedIn, like, I get messages, like, I'm sure everyone gets like solicitation messages like crazy. And I've done it. Like, I've done it myself. And, I realize it can, like, a solicitation message can be okay if it's done right, I think. But, like, I was sending some out before, and I didn't get any business from them, really. I got some conversations out of it. And it was just, it didn't feel right. It never felt right. And it didn't feel genuine. If I'm going to send a message to someone now, I'm going to send it, I'm going to send a genuine message to them. And I've tried automation. It didn't work for me. It seems like the great thing to do, but it didn't work. I gave it a good try too. And it wasn't any good.
Yeah, well, I've had similar experiences. I know there's a lot of courses out there that teach people how to do what you're saying, but I feel it's not genuine as well. But what you are doing is genuine, and I think that's a much better place to come from. But what people have to realize also is it's Connect 365. you might have to do it for 365 days to really build up that reputation. But I think the message, and this goes with everything in marketing, and especially when we're talking about local listing and Google, is its consistency. Is what you're doing has got to be consistent, from getting links to your website to getting reviews on your Google My Business page. In fact, the reviews, recency, and the number is one of the main ranking factors to be shown on the map.
Yep. I just started laughing a little bit about consistency, because one of my clients I started working with, it's not a local business, it's more like kind of an e-commerce thing. But anyway, I wanted to help her out, and I said, to get content, like videos are great. Just you talk about what you do, and we can put it up on YouTube, then we can have it transcribed and put it on your website and things like that. But it just, the consistency thing, because I was showing her some examples of other people that do what she does on YouTube and how many followers they have, and she's like, how do they do that? It's consistency. So I got her to she made 4 videos, and like we had them up. I kind of dripped them out like over a few days, whatever. And she's like, I'm not getting any views. This isn't working. I'm like, it's not like that. It's not like, you go to the gym one day and feast, it's she's looking at the analytics is like seven, like the engagement time is dropping. I'm like, there's no data. Like you have to be consistent about this. Keep putting them out, and then people will find you. That is the thing, is consistency. And even with LinkedIn, like I used to try. I don't even really connect with people anymore, like go outbound connections. But as I've been doing this, I mean, I've always had some inbound connections, but I get a lot of inbound connections, and they're like from my local area too. So that's where I like. Those are the ones that are really valuable to me, is my, people that are in my state or in my, near me. And I get a bunch of those every day. I mean, I don't know. I'm like, 11,500 connections or something. But it's all kind of organically working now.
And that's the way to drive it. It's a very hard thing to do, which is why people hire SEO companies and people like yourself to do that work for you. I have this interview service as well that I offer to people to get content out there so that they have something to put
it's very valuable.
Their website as well. I want to take a shift. I think branding is extremely important, and it's something that people have got to work on consistently in order to be seen as the number one most relevant choice in their marketplace. But there's a couple of other things before we go, Bill, is technical SEO. Things like page speed and the HTTPS are becoming more and more important and ranking factors. Just today I noticed, and I don't know how long it's been up there, but on my search engine results, there's to the right-hand side of each result, there's a little colorful dots. I don't know if you've seen that before. And if you click on it, it says specifically, your connection to this website is secure, or your connection to this website is not secure. So,
I haven't seen that yet.
Like I said, I just noticed that this morning, and said, this is different.
That's what browser are you using?
That is in Chrome.
Oh, okay. And I'm just looking as we're talking. I have an update in Chrome, so I don't know if it's browser specific, or if it's or it could be in the search results itself.
But it's and I heard from one of the top guys at Google that the very first thing that Google looks for is the site secure. So they're really looking for that frame right away before they look at anything else. They're checking the security of the site. So it's become imperative almost for ranking as well to get that HTTPS, especially if you are a local business, and definitely if you're collecting any kind of information at all from prospects or customers.
I mean, you have to have HTTPS. It doesn't cost you really anything. You can set it up on Cloudflare or whatever and have it set up. It's more, it's definitely paid services too, but Cloudflare is fine, get you through. And it's pretty simple to set up most of the time. Yeah, but it has to be, because on a browser level, even if your site's not secure, you'll get a message sometimes when you click on that result. It will just be that warning message, right? That says this site is not secure. And then you have to go down and say advanced. Yes, I know what I'm doing. And who's going to do that if they're looking for something? Then people aren't going to do that.
Especially if they aren't familiar with the website. Nobody's going to click on that. They think they're going to get a virus, or the immediate turn off if you have that kind of message. And Google are obviously showing that message more and more, so people are not even getting to the website.
Right. They're not even visiting. Yeah.
Absolutely. The other thing is page load time. Now I've looked at the bounce rates, which means people are going to your site, they're waiting, and how quickly do they get off your site if it hasn't loaded? And the bounce rate, if your site doesn't load within 3 seconds, people are bouncing almost immediately. So what kind of things can you do to speed up a website?
Well, first thing I would do, there's Google PageSpeed Insights. It's a great tool. That's what I use. I use Google PageSpeeds. There's GT Metrics also, but I like Google PageSpeed Insights because Google made it, and it's showing you what they want. And it gives you, once you put your website in there, it gives you a list of things that you can do. It actually even gives you the resources to do it too. If it's images, you can actually download the images and stuff like that from Google. But I would focus on, and I think they changed it now, the first tab they give you, because there's 2 tabs, mobile and desktop. Focus on the mobile side of it. The desktop side is going to be fine if the mobile's fine, but you have to really be fast on mobile. Desktop, it will be if it's fast on mobile, it's probably going to be fast on desktop. But making sure your images are the right size, making sure they're compressed. One of the big things that usually pops up is render blocking JavaScript. So if you have, which means it won't let anything else render on the page until that JavaScript is processed. So you can make it so it's not render blocking. Some things you just can't get. Some things you just, if it's calling from outside the website, like a Google font thing, there's not too much you can do about that. But Google will give you, with that PageSpeed Insights, it gives you a lot of the answers right there to what to do. Fixing it sometimes can be, it can take a little bit of time, but a lot of times even just fixing like the render blocking JavaScript will give you a good bump in score. Yeah.
Well, great information, Bill. It's been great to talk to you. I think there's a lot of work that local businesses have to do if they want to show up on the internet, and that's where people are going to find information. Even in the case of what we talked about, the referral marketing, the first thing that you do if you get a business card or a referral from somebody is generally go do a search for that person's name and their business. So that branding is extremely important as well.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
But we've talked a lot about Google My Business and how to get on there. I think the images that you talked about was extremely important. And of course, you can do videos on there as well. So there's plenty to do. There's the technical stuff that we just touched on at the end that can make a difference as well. But if people want to reach out to you, Bill, for just more advice or help with some of these things to get them prepared for 2020 and beyond, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can send me an email, wsmith@bostonseoservices.org. That's probably the best way to get in touch with me. It's a .org because there was no .com available. So that's the reason I have it. People ask me, why did you pick that? I didn't pick it. It was the only thing I had available. So
yeah, well, I was doing a search earlier today for your business, and I put in .com, and I saw it was parked.
Oh, is it?
There isn't even there isn't even a website there, so it might be available.
Yeah, it might be, for a small fee, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. Well, now I noticed that you were doing a giveaway. Do you have anything that you could entice the listeners here to come get for free? I know you're all about giving value.
Yeah, absolutely. I did like a birthday giveaway that I stopped, but I'll do it again. I was giving out it was like, I think it was $30,000 worth. So I'm just whoever, if they I have a local business management platform that I use, and it's a great way to manage your posts if you want to do posts, which helps you Google my business rank better. Manage your citations, make sure there's about 50 to 60 citations in that to make sure they're consistent, like some of those top ones, high authority citations. Also, manage your reviews, which is really cool. So you can send out, if you have an email list or text, a phone number, you can text to them and ask for a review. It's just, and asking for a review is just a good way it's just a good thing for business anyway. Even if it didn't help you rank, you'd want to know if like somebody was happy with your business or not. So
yeah,
it's a nice way to say, hey, how did we do? And that also, I said the scheduling posts. Yeah, that's it. So that kind of manages all that Google My Business stuff where you can help you rank.
Well, that is definitely something worth getting and taking a look at.
Yeah.
Again, the email was wsmith@bostonseoservices.org.
Yep, and just email me with that because that offer was gone, but I'll definitely honor that to anyone.
Awesome. Well, Bill, I appreciate it. Anybody listening, you really have to check out Bill on LinkedIn as well and see what he's doing with Connect 365. Maybe you'll take it up yourself, as I need to do.
Yeah.
Also, it is a commitment and takes consistency, but I think with anything, the results are there for the people that do that. So, again, Bill, thank you very much for being my guest.
Neil. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I look forward to continuing this conversation soon, but until then, thanks for being my guest. And to our listening audience, if you like what you hear, hit that like button and share, and we will see you next time on the show.
You've been listening to the Trust Factor Radio with Neil Howe. To learn about the resources mentioned in the show and to listen to past episodes, go to thetrustfactorradio.com. To get a copy of the book, The Trust Factor, go to thetrustfactorbook.com. If you are ready to act now and build your authority, credibility, and trust, schedule a consultation with Neil at theauthorityarchitect.com.